and looking at their portfolio had grown, how are the space that we have got it for them, help them to maximize their wealth in real estate, how I help them to fulfill their real estate dream, how we manage to encourage them to make a right selection. It makes me very happy, and that's what keeps me going. Yeah. So how about you, Velisa? Will you share about yourself?
For me, I see property, real estate as an investment tool. It is a powerful tool that can also help someone in their retirement planning, because I am a beneficiary of one. I've seen how my parents, they are normal salary workers, but yet they were smart enough to use whatever that they have, which is through real estate, to make their retirement fund. And by witnessing that, I do believe that regardless of which era we are at right now, there is still opportunity if we know how to select the right property to grow for yourself a decent size of retirement portfolio. And after all, I'm sure most of you will agree, real estate is most likely the most expensive thing you will ever buy in your entire life. So since you're going to buy something, why not make it a good one? And we are strong advocates that we don't go in just based on emotions. We also go into data analysis, trend analysis, because as responsible salespeople, when we want you to buy something, we must also make sure that we can help you exit when the time is right. So for myself, I'm under my husband's leadership. Donny is my husband. I'm 5 years in this business, and very blessed that I had, because of his presence, he has speed up my growth in terms of knowledge, in terms of the acumen to read the market. And very thankful that we have been receiving the top husband and wife team award in ARA for 2 consecutive years in both 2020 and 2021. And I do hope that we can continue this streak in this year in 2022 as well. So being combined experience of close to 20 years, 11 days ago's cooling measure was not a surprise for us. We were also there when they announced the cooling measure in 2018. And that measure was a little bit more lenient because they announced it during dinner time. And I still remember when we received the news, we were having dinner and we had to drop everything, and show flats were suddenly open overnight because they wanted people to buy before the cooling measure takes place at 12 midnight. So that night was crazy. There were people that flooded the show flat because that cooling measure had a very big impact as they introduced this thing called the ABSD increment from 7% to 12%, as well as they increased the loan to value ratio. That means they restrict how much money you can loan. So that was crazy. Then some of you might think, then what about the cooling measure that was just introduced lately? Is it going to have the same kind of impact that that the previous one had? So let us go into detail. Okay, so what is this whole entire cooling measure that was introduced 11 days ago about? The government came out to say that, hey, we are reading the market and we are for the people. We want to make sure that our property market grow in a sustainable manner. Why do they say that? Let me highlight to you an article that was published last Thursday. This was the Straits Times article. And the key thing that I want you to read, you don't have to read the whole thing. The key thing is $45 million flats were sold in a month. I believe this was the main trigger point that created the cooling measure that came out 11 days ago. Being in this line, we have sold $1 million HDB flats. And so how crazy is that? As you all know, HDBs are controlled by HDB valuation. So for the $1 million flats, it doesn't mean that their valuation hit $1 million. It is most likely below $1 million, but these buyers, they have enough cash to come out with the cash over valuation. And when there are more and more of such sales happening, it's going to tilt the entire resale index of HDB flats in the entire market. And that's going to cause a lot of unrest in the society as a whole. That is why, if you were to ask me, I think this is a very timely cooling measure. mainly is to stabilize the market, to stop crazy cash overvaluation in the market, because we do not want the super rich to come and topple the balance that we are supposed to create in the HDB market. So exactly how is the measure going to affect the HDB resale market? If you are a HDB seller or you are looking to buy a HDB, how is it going to affect you? So the key challenge, like I mentioned just now, why they introduced this measure was because of the escalating HDB prices. It has been climbing up. The HDB resale price index has been climbing up for the last 24 months since COVID releases the lockdown. COV transactions has also been crazy. We have been seeing 100 over K, 200 over K cash over valuations being transacted. $1 million HDB flats. Last time it used to be the newer ones, the more sexy area HDBs that are seeing $1 million transaction. And we justify that, because of the age, because of the location, it makes sense to be $1 million. But more recently, we have been seeing the less likely locations like older flat in Tampines also going for $1 million. So that is something that I believe the government is trying to control, to not let it go out of control. And of course, in terms of rising interest rates, as we speak, we do know that the Federal Reserve recently just increased the interest rates again. And Singapore, because our banks are tied to the Federal Reserves, it does have a direct impact on us as well. So to make sure that nobody is ever strapped by rising interest rate and having to be homeless, this cooling measure is also to tackle the rising interest rate challenge. So in the sense of rising resale, broad-based demand, why is resale houses pricing going up for the last 2 years? Mainly it's because there is an increase in the number of marriages, though COVID provides some inconvenience, but people, when they want to marry, they still have to get married. And when they get married, they have to find a place to stay. And because during the COVID period, there has been a slowdown in terms of release of BTO flats, going to get married couples, they are in a stuck situation whereby if I buy a resale BTO, I have to wait. And I may not get a flat. I have to continue to try. Or should I go to the resale market, I get a flat immediately. So this is one of the factors that push up the demand for resale in the market right now. And of course, there is on smaller household sizes, so there will be more. Last time used to be 10 people staying in one house, now maybe like 3 people in one house. So the number of houses needed gets higher. And of course, more home buyers are also turning to resale because they just don't want to wait, because BTO usually before COVID takes about 3 years to build. But right now, if you do look at the recent BTO estimated construction period, the TOP date, it takes about 5 years. And 5 years is a long wait. For most people, I always joke, by the time you wait for your flat to be ready, most likely your children is ready for primary school already. Yeah. So this cooling measure, we see it as a dual approach by the government. Number one is to slow down the buying demand, especially the extravagantly priced HDB that demands high COV, and also to ensure prudent borrowing, so that to make sure that it's never a bubble that is created. So the approach, which is slow down the buying demand. So what exactly is inside the cooling measure? Number one, they are targeting mainly on the private property owners looking to downgrade to a HDB. So they said that for private property owners who are lesser than 55 years old, if you want to buy a HDB, you have to wait. You have to wait 15 months. But if you really do calculate, it is going to be more than 15 months. Why do I say that? The 15 months starts when the sale of your private property completes. So let's say you today find a buyer to buy your property. Typically, the sale of a private property completes about 3 months later. So that's 3 months. After 3 months, your 15 months waiting period starts. So 3 plus 15 is 18 months. After the 18-month mark, then you can buy a HDB. And when you buy a HDB, you don't move in immediately. There's also the sale process that will happen. That will take typically another 4 more months. So 18 plus 4, that's 22 months. And after you finally get the flat, provided the flat seller don't need extension stay, you will need to renovate. Renovate takes about 1.5 to 2 months. So I add another 2 months. So from start to end, by the time you sell your private property and when you finally get to move into your HDB, it's going to take at least 2 years, 24 months. So it's not just 15 months. If you really do calculate the in front and the behind, it's going to be 2 years. And this is going to create a lot of inconveniences. This is going to create a lot of rethinking among the private owners who are thinking of selling off to downgrade to a HDB. So that is exactly what they want to do, because HDB do have all the data. They also do know that who are the ones who are buying all the high COV HDB houses. So this is one group of people that they want to target to control them. So no more buying. So last time when people wants to downgrade from a private to a HDB, they will say that, okay, let me buy a HDB resale first. I confirm where I want to stay, then I go and sell my private property. Now you can no longer do that. However, I do have to acknowledge that the government do have certain leniency. Whenever they come up with a measure, they also think of certain group of people that will need to move. For example, those that maybe are hitting retirement and they are thinking of right-sizing and offloading their private property to free up the pot of gold that they have in their private property for retirement. That is why, thankfully, for this measure, if you are 55 years old and above, and if you are looking to buy not an extravagant 5-room EAEM kind of house, but a 4-room and below, good news is you are not restricted by this latest cooling measure. You can still proceed to go ahead with your plans. Okay. Number 2, what is the other impact of this cooling measure? Prudent borrowing. As we all know, right now, if you are looking at bank interest rate right now, a lot of the big banks in Singapore, DBS, OCBC, the current revised fixed interest rate is at close to 3.5%. And therefore, if let's say we want to ensure the prudency of borrowing and the affordability of the houses because of rising interest rate going forward, it is only right that we increase the stress test in terms of the borrowing interest rate. Because whenever we borrow from the bank, there is a stress test that they do. Previously, it was at 3.5%. They assume that if the interest rate is at 3.5%, what is the amount that you can borrow? But right now, they increase that stress test figure from 3.5 to 4% to make sure that there is still that room for you to stretch if in case the interest rate is to go up further in future. So right now, for loan from HDB, they have also reduced the amount that you can loan directly from them. Previously, it was 85%, meaning that, for example, for easy illustration, if this house that you are getting is 100,000, you can borrow 85,000 from HDB. And then you just have to pay 15%. But right now, for the new cooling measure, they reduce the amount of loan that you can, because they want to reduce the loan burden that people are taking on. So right now, for HDB loan, you can only loan 80%. So back to the same example, if the house costs 100K, now you can only loan 80,000, and you have to fork out 20,000, which is the 20%. Out of which you can have a combination of cash and CPF, and of course grant if you are eligible. Whereas if let's say you can buy HDB, other than getting from HDB loan, you can also take the loan from bank. Bank remains the same, it's unchanged. It is at the usual of 75%, whereby there's a 5% mandatory cash, and then the remaining 20%, it can be a combination of cash and or CPF. So in terms of loan from HDB, they have increased the stress test as well. It used to be at 2.6%. Right now, they have increased the stress test to 3%. Okay, just now the 3.5 to 4 is for private bank loan. For HDB loan, they have a lower percentage, which is 2.6, but now they have increased it to 3%. What does this mean? This could also potentially mean that there could be a chance that for HDB loan, they may increase the interest rate in future. This one is not supported by any evidence, but I believe that for this measure to be in place, there may be some thoughts about that as well. So it's something for you to also take note. In terms of when you want to take HDB loan, you need to get a loan eligibility from HLE. So this new stress test of 3% take effect immediately on the 30th of September. All right. But if let's say you have any existing HLE, the housing loan eligibility done before the 30th, they will still honor what was done previously. All right. But please take note, if you really need to buy something, buy it soon because there is the expiry date for your HLE. You can look at your HLE, there's an expiry date. So once you reach that expiry date, you have to reapply your loan eligibility. And now if you reapply, you'll be subjected to the new stress test figure of 3%. Okay, so what does this imply? How does this affect a day-to-day HDB buyer who are looking at buying a HDB? The table on my right, on your right, is before the cooling measure. The table on the left is after the cooling measure. Skipping all the workings, the highlight here is in terms of funds, down payment, be it cash or CPF, that is going to be an increased amount that you need to come up with. Okay, so this is to ensure that nobody over leverages on loan. So they want you to down more in terms of down payment if you want to buy a house. All right. What about loan from banks to buy HDB flat? So right now, just now, as I mentioned, they no longer use 3.5%. Now they use 4% as a stress test. This would also mean that the amount of loan that you are eligible for is going to be lesser. So this is just an example. Likewise, on the right is based on 3.5% before the cooling measure. On the left, it is based on 4% after the cooling measure. So if you see on the first column under income, let's say a typical HDB buyer, if let's say their income is, combined income is about 8,000 to 10,000, previously they would have been able to afford something close to, let's say your income is 10,000. Previously, based on the stress test of 3.5%, you can afford a HDB close to 800,000. But now, because of the increase in the stress test interest rate of 4%, your purchasing power is reduced by $41,000. So overall, it brings down the quantum that you can buy to a much lower level. So impact, what kind of impact this cooling measure will have directly on HDB resale market? We believe, okay, how we are going to foresee the market going to move is demand from HDB resale flats is still going to be strong. Why? Because BTO is still going to take time to build. The supply is still going to be limited. You will not see a bumper crop of HDB flats available in market until at least 5 years later. And in fact, 5 years later, you may not see a bumper crop of HDB flats on the resale market as well, because a vast majority of them are under the PHG scheme where they can only sell 10 years later. So in terms of supply in the market, it is still going to be very restrictive. So we believe that the demand for resale flat will still hold. Especially who will come and buy, they'll be the first timer. So people who get married and need to find a house, a home, a place to call home, they will come in to buy. Those who have sold their existing HDB flat, you are not restricted by this measure because this measure is purely targeting at private owners looking to downgrade to a HDB. So HDB flat owners, no worries, you can still proceed to go and upgrade to a bigger flat or change location. There will be no impact on you whatsoever. Number 3, for seniors, if you are at the stage of wanting to right size and to buy into something that can also help to have some funds to fund your retirement, this will not also affect you. So rest assured, you can still proceed with your retirement planning. Whereas for those group of buyers who are maybe less than 55 years old, this group of buyers will be kept out of the HDB resale market. So this group of buyers, if let's say for whatever reason you need to sell, you will need to look back into the resale market if you do not want to hold that 24 months waiting period before you can move to HDB. So because there is a restriction for the 55-year-old, those that are more than 55-year-old from buying the bigger HDB flats, this will also mean that the demand for the 4-room and the 3-room is expected to increase. If demand increases, supply remains constant. We do foresee that the price index for this particular portfolio of housing will likely see an increment in pricing. Number two, demand for 5-room and larger will only come from upgraders. Does it mean that the pricing will drop? I think it may not. However, I believe we will maybe stop seeing crazy COVs happening in the market right now. So if you are a seller, it may be a good chance for you to also recalibrate and see if you really urgently need to offer property, recalibrate your expectation, because going forward, the kind of buyers, the kind of extra cash that they have to be paying COV is going to be limited. And of course, the demand for $1 million resale HDB flats will only come from upgraders who are probably selling their current HDB flats to upgrade to a sexier location or a bigger unit or a newer unit. So what does this also mean? This will also mean that rental demand will likely continue to increase, because there are going to be this group of people who will still, no matter what, because of financial restrictions, they have to sell their private and buy HDB. So meanwhile, they will need to look for a 2 years rental to stay in the meanwhile. So we do expect rental continue to go up in the next few months or even the next 1 year. So what about the private property market? How will this affect the private property market? Because of the increase in the stress test, the amount of loan that the private buyers can get will be affected. It will be much lower. So because of the much lower, the kind of that they can look at is going to change as well. So maybe previously they had a budget of $2 million, but right now, because of the stress test, they can only look at something at 1.8, for example. So so there may be some of you in this chat, in this seminar, who are looking at non-residential property. So for non-residential property like the commercial and the industrial units, do take note in terms of the stress test percentage for loan, they have also increased. It used to be 4.5, but now it's at 5. But if you do ask me, a 0.5 percentage point increment will not typically cause too much drawback if, let's say, you are really needing to buy something. I would say that the kind of impact that it's going to cause is going to be minimal. Okay, so this is an example of, let's say, if you are aspiring to buy a private estate, or you are looking to upgrade to a bigger private from an existing private, how will this increase in stress test going to affect you? So let's take an example. Let's say a typical family of a couple, husband and wife, let's say they are both engineers. Typically, right now in the market, their combined income, I would say, is between 15,000 to 20,000, or maybe even 25,000. But let me take 20,000 as a gauge right now. Looking at the table under the income column, if you look at $20,000, previously, if you look at 3.5% before the COLI measure, your loan can go up to 2.449 million, and you are eligible to buy something at 3.2 million. But now, because of the COLI measure where they increase the stress test by 0.5%, your maximum property purchase price is reduced to about 3 million. So there's a drop in terms of your purchasing power by about 200,000. Then you may ask, for 3 million, is there something that I can buy right now in the market? The good news is there still are good options right now in the market, which we can discuss offline after this seminar. But just to let you know, I've been hearing a lot of people mentioning to me, buyers who say that Singapore is such a difficult place to buy property. Take note, when they say difficult, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's expensive. When they say difficult, they actually mean that there are a lot of red tapes in place. Restriction on how many properties you can buy, restriction on how much loan you can take, restriction on the timeline on when you can buy, what you can buy. So when they say difficult, it actually points more to these points rather than the pricing, because if you really look at the income of the people around us who are earning currently, there is a jump in income ceiling for from the majority of the people in the market right now. So in terms of affordability, I believe that it is still relatively affordable. But of course, with all this cooling measure, I do think that it is also a good move because it ensures that whenever you buy something, regardless of what's happening in the market, you are able to hold the property. And that is most important when it comes to property investment. Regardless up and down, we always believe that the power to hold will outride all the waves that you see in the market, all the ripples that the cooling measures will create, as long as you have the ability to hold. And all this loan to value restrictions, all this TDSR restrictions, and all these stress test restrictions is to ensure that you are more than able to hold the property going forward, regardless of how the economy is going to perform. Okay, so the next big question is, now should I still enter? And with that, I think we will move on to the bonus section, which will be covered by Donny.
Hi, just to, while I'm changing my slide, may I just get some of your participation, because we are talking to screen, we don't know if you all are engaged or learn something. If you like Velisa's session so far, will you be able to help us? Type a 1 in the chat, right? Type a 1 in the chat. Just tell me to type a 1 in the chat so that we know you are listening and so far you have benefited and you like what you hear so far. Before we go into a bonus segment, might get your help on that. Yeah. Do I get some response? Let me see. Check. Anyone? Can you help me to type a 1? Our chat is disabled. Okay, no problem. So that's why I said, hey, how come there's no one? Wow, Jasmine, thanks for putting a 1 here on the Q&A. No problem. If that's the case, thanks for letting me know. Appreciate all your response here. Chat is disabled. Okay, let me share with you a bonus segment. This part is something that at first I had one buyer who were caught whether should they buy a property. In fact, it's something similar that I did about 5 years ago, where the market also have some changes. And this is and over then when I share with them this part of the sharing, they, after learning through the information, they are in a better position to make a more informed decision. And with that, they actually purchase a property. A few years later, down the road, they actually made close to $500,000, right, in the property. And in fact, some better properties, you can even make 200,000-300,000 within a short span of one year or so, right? So let me, before we go into that, let me just do my sharing here. Let me see. All right, so this is one of the segment that previously I taught on consumer seminar, our exclusive consumer seminar. So I think there's a lot of fear in the market. Will you agree? Right, with the rising inflation, rising interest rate, with the inflation of the market, what should we do? Should we wait or should we take action now to purchase our next property, right? So let me share with you some information based on my research. And if you were to do any investment, I will also suggest you to work with your agent and also do your own research before you commit. Let me go into the topic today. 3 things. Are you fearful of what? Inflation? Are you fearful of recession? Are you fearful of rising interest rate? Let me share with you on let me address fear of recession. So Singapore said no recession next year as it seeks to beat risk, right? Neither recession nor inflation expect for Singapore 2023. So at a coffee shop, there's always people talking about, hey, Donny, is there, or rather they're not talking to me, they're talking to our friend, hey, recession coming. So it caused a lot of fear in the market. But the truth is there a recession? In fact, that day I was having lunch with my COO, right? My COO, I was asking, hey, boss, they were talking about inflation. What do you think? My boss also said, Donny, there's no recession because we need to look at facts and figures. So let me share with you the facts. GDP had grown 4.8% year on year on second quarter of 2022. Low unemployment rate, stable economic activity, and recovery in international travel. These are the 4 points that if it's into recession, number one, you will not get GDP growth. You'll be a couple of percentage or even negative, right? There will be high unemployment rate where people have no job, then there's no spending in the market. Number three, the economy, there's no people who are out buying, right? There's no stable economic activity and there's no travel. In Singapore, we are a tourism hub, right? People like to visit us and they like to spend money, and that keeps the market going, keep the restaurant, the retail going, and create job opportunity, and everyone need to have sell companies because their restaurants are also performing well and so on and so forth. So it's actually a booming market. All is interlinked, right? Let me share with you statistics because I'm a facts and figure person. I think number don't lie. Emotion is something that we feel along the way, but numbers don't lie. You look at the average income and average monthly earning per employee, right? It has increased in the orange segment. It has increased over the years, and the total unemployment rate has decreased. So these two charts is very powerful because it gives me confidence when I look at this and say, okay, I can still purchase a property because there's no inflation, right? Unemployment rate has increased, has decreased, is at a low of 2% in first quarter 2022. Average monthly income had grown 10.6%, right, compared to pre-COVID period. And unemployment rate and wages remain healthy. Let me show you this chart about the recovery in international travel. There is 1.5 million visitors in first half of 2022. It's like pre-COVID, man. Increased nearly to 12 times compared to the same period last year. And there's strong pent-up demand. It shows strong pent-up demand to come to Singapore, and Singapore is a top choice for tourists and business travelers. And you know what? Straight Times expect 6 million, up to 6 million in 2022. And most of them will be coming from where? Indonesia, India, and Malaysia, right? And there's a high influx of foreign visitors expect in second half of 2022. And this will stimulate economy and encourage more jobs, right? And of course, when there's jobs, there's tenant, there's of course, landlord will make good money. In fact, recently, some of our investment property, the rental has been mind-blowing. It has been out of the world. Recently, we just rented one bedroom condo in Geylang. They used to command only like 1,009 rental or 2,001 most, but recently it can even rent out to 3,003. So it was really mind-blowing, right? Number two, so after I addressed the first fear, let me go into a second fear. What's the second fear? Right, fear of inflation. Inflation, what does inflation means? Right, I'm sure all of you would know inflation means erosion of dollar value, right? So, but let me go into specific. With $10, what can you buy? Right? Should you keep it in a bank or should you take out and invest in something, right? Imagine if you have a $10, right, in year 1979, you can buy a cheeseburger, right, at 1979, you can buy a cheeseburger at $1.10. Sorry, at that time I wasn't born, so I don't know, right? But now in 2019, a cheeseburger costs $2.80. And you see the Big Mac has increased in price. If you keep the same $10, what can you buy, right? Then of course, real estate is a good hedge against inflation. This is something that people have been saying, and it's the truth. If you look at this, the consumer price index is the one in blue, and the property price index, which is in red. You will see it has actually outperformed the consumer price index. Right, this is the stats from all these statistics are taken from SingStats. SingStats is our Singapore government agency that has all the data, and their numbers don't lie. That's why I find in Singapore we are very blessed because we have all the data, and it makes our investment easier. Right, unlike some country, they don't have data collection. There's nothing that we can find out and make a more informed decision. So what happens is private property price index has grown faster than consumer price index over the last 15 years. And over the long term, real estate is a good hedge against inflation. And let me share with you more example. Assuming you start with 1 million in 2006. If inflation, right? If you have hedged this property with inflation, if they raise with inflation, by right it should worth 1.3 million in 2021 or 1.38 million in 2022. But if you just put into a bank saving, right, you probably will only have like 1.069 million, and that's a loss of how much? A good 300 to 400,000. However, if you were to have invested in a private property, like some of our investors did, right? You put into a 1 mil private property, right now you will have worth 1.9 million. So that's the growth that the property market has. So bank saving, the growth is 0.4%. Inflation is 2.1%. Would you want to have the other form of investment, which is property, to rise at a rate of 4.6% and make your money grow even higher as the time goes? Number 3, fear that a lot of buyers had or consumer had, the fear of rising interest rate. People scared to buy. Yes, is it true? How many of you actually scared to buy? Because you're here, always high interest rate, 3.08, 3%, that's the news keep coming on and on. But can I share with you a secret? Right, when SORA rise in 2017, right, to 2019, home price continue to rise. Interest rate going up doesn't lower property price. It actually went even higher. And if you can look at this statistic, overall picture of high interest rate cannot stay forever in the economy. Why? Because if the interest is high, there will not be a lot of borrowing happening. And with that, they cannot take out the money and put it back in the market to buy things and all this. So the economy cannot also grow, right? So by right, high interest rate is not there to stay forever, and it cannot stay forever, right? You can mark my word. So it's just a moment. Like if you see in year 2017, when you rise to 2019, it's only 2 years, it went down. So that's why some of my friends, they know, they always come to me and say, hey, Donny, since you are in the business for 14 years, you're also the subject matter expert. May I ask you, for interest rate, should I go fixed or should I go floating? Then I tell them, I go floating. I say, why? Because floating, the price on the interest only go up. Yes, it does go up, but it does come down. And even if it go higher than what you have fixed earlier, right, it's just a short period and you go down. So I'm someone who likes to take floating, and I will never take fixed. Because the fixed, right, as a bank, will you want to fix it at low or you want to fix it at high? All banks or most banks that I know, they actually fix it at a super high rates already. So even before you reach, you're already paying high. So why do we want to do that, right? So this is something that I do, and some of my the other friend also very cute. He say, whatever you do, Donny, I'll just follow you. You cannot be wrong. So he said, you take floating, I take floating. I don't need to ask you why. I said, okay, wherever you buy, you just tell me, I'll just buy. Right. So this is some of my other friends' strategy that when we come into property. So anyway, interest rate, this is another information that I want to share with you. Being an investor is all about, beside, there's two ways to make money. One, capital outside. Second way is by rental. And rental index has increased 20% since first quarter of 2020. Strong demand from foreign aspect as students may continue to drive rental prices. As we speak, just now before I start, I also have people contacting me saying they have people who are on employment pass that says they want rental units, and over here then I'm trying to connect them with my agents, right? So there's strong demands. Also strong rental demand will ease the weight of higher interest mortgage. So you see, maybe your installment used to be 2,000. Now with that little bit increment, maybe 2001, 2002. Wow, Donny, high interest, my mortgage high. But how about your info? Your rental used to be 1,009, now it's 3,003, right? Are you making positive gain? Yes. And now you look at 3,003. If the demand is still high, do you think the next renewal you're still at 3,003? Cannot be, right? You have to go south, because this tenant, if don't take, there'll be like 10 tenants and say, hey, please give me a unit, right? So all this will help you drive out rental, and you will make good money in your investment. So let me give you a case study. Imagine there's a 2 million property in District 9, right? It used to be 4,008 in the installment, but now because of a high interest rate of 3%, it becomes 5,004. But do you know what? The tenant is paying like 6,002. So is it positive or negative, right? So it is something that is ongoing, and it's a real facts and figures that we are drawing out to support our decision when we decide whether to buy or not to buy, right? So rental is higher than mortgage, right? I would say it's a thumbs up. So there's a saying, today's high is tomorrow's low. You know, being a business, we were blown away because we speak to individual, high net worth individual, or rather they are maybe successful individual in their time and space during their generation, like maybe in their 70s, 1970s, 1980s, 1960s. When they enter, they buy real estate. Example, some of them even buy like rental property. They pay like what? For 14,000. There was one paid 20,000. I remember I was like, huh, you pay 20,000, and I sold the property for 1.7 million. Then recently, Velisa also met some that paid like 500,000 for lender, and now worth like how much, Velisa?
More than 5 million.
More than 5 million. 500,000. You know which year? Which year they buy?
30 years ago.
30 years ago. So it was amazing, because the price has moved way higher because there's strong demand. Everyone need a place. So every time, in of my 14 years, there's never one time a buyer tell me, hey, Donny, the property price is cheap now. Never. I can tell you, and it's not going to happen. Why? More Singapore developer looking to hike condo price. Reason being, there is not a lot of supply. There's very strong demand. Then you know what happened in the resale land sale price? You get a Pine Grove, like land price is at 1,003. It's going to launch at 2,003. 2,003. It's not something that we will see in a few years ago. It's now all the upcoming launches. You see, it's not even the prime area, like the RCR. The RCR is going at 2,003. This used to be a CCR price, and we have Diamond Road, 2,003. We have Lakeside Apartment, 2,002. So the idea is very simple. If, example, if today you go and buy, you are a developer, you go and bid. My question is, will the highest bidder get the land or the lowest bidder? It'll be highest bidder, right? So imagine if you're the highest bidder, then the second highest, right, even if you lose by $1, they'll PSF, PPR, they will also miss. So the next time when they go back to their board of director meeting, their board of director will ask them, have you got a land? Say no. You lose by how much? $1. Why why are you so conservative in your calculation? What business are we doing? The developer will ask themselves, what business are we doing? We are doing development of buying land and develop and sell. Now we have no land, we have no business, we are out of business. Will you be able to go and get more land? So the next time when he bid, will he bid higher or will he bid lower? I think the answer is clear because he cannot go back and get scolding from the board of directors. So all developers will be going through this momentum, and they will always sell and replenish their land bank, and they can only get more aggressive. And you know what also blew my mind away recently is unbelievable. A 5-room HDB, you look at the price of a BTO. No, what is BTO is a price that something that I always take notice of because it represents the lowest the baseline, rather is the baseline of property prices, right? Because the baseline from there, that's when the next tier EC, condo, landed, so on and so forth. So it represents the baseline in property prices, and with that, if what they are going to sell as a public housing meant for stay at 877,000, what do you think will be our future prices? And mind you, this is just the start. Would there be, how about next BTO? Will it still be 877, right? And if they put into a resale market, do you think it will be like what, another $1 million flat? Easily, I think it will worth probably about 1.2 million. That is my guess. I don't know about you. And with 1.2 million unlocking, do you think that they will take it and buy a private property? And with that, do you think a private property prices will still go up? Right. So this is how it works. Right. This cycle never change. So I always encourage every one of my buyer, my friends, my everyone. We don't wait to buy real estate. We buy to wait, not wait to buy. Because you wait, there's never a good chance, right? But buying a property, what is a good characteristic to look out for, right? You don't anyhow buy, because if anyhow buy property can make money, then I think it's very easy. There's also right property selection that we advocate, which later we'll share with you more. So anyway, right now we have some good buys generally in the market, right? If you are keen, everyone, may I invite you to take out your phone, scan this QR code. It will link up to Velisa's WhatsApp, and you just follow the direction here. Say, hi, I'm Hu. I would like a copy of the ebook, right? If you are invited by a real estate advisor to join this webinar, please contact your real estate advisor for ebook because we'll send to them. But if you are not invited by a real estate advisor, but by a financial advisor, do scan this and get a copy from Velisa. Just say, I want this ebook. So what do you have inside? You have all the hottest buy, the upcoming launches, and also what are some of the prices that's available, what kind of property are there in the market. It's a free ebook that we collated, and if you are keen quickly, I'll give you probably about 1 minute to scan this, right? And I'll move on to the next slide. If not, you can also take a picture of this and you can get this ebook from us later in a while. You can just screenshot, take your handphone to take this picture, also can, right? Then later you can get the ebook, right? All right, I'll give you 1 minute. 1 minute. The timer starts now. Wait for a while. Right. Is there any questions so far? Any question while waiting? 44 seconds. Maybe I can answer one question.
For those of you who are interested to ask Donny or Velisa any questions, please feel free to type in the Q&A segment. I will be happy to take them on.
Jimmy, will you be able to elaborate what are you referring to about? Tell me about this address. Okay, time's up. I don't really get a question because it's very generic. Okay, then Geylang is
It's an apartment.
apartment.
Mm.
Jimmy, as a professional, we don't okay, we know property, but we will want to go in depth analysis. So if you were to find out whether you want us to give our opinion whether it's a good buy based on first look, we need to go based on first look is very tough because I can give you a very sweeping statement, right? Whatever I say, I think it doesn't hold weight because this is not something that we usually do. Hope you don't mind. We will need to go into deeper analysis if you are asking for a suggestion. So we can you drop Velisa a note, right, to say about this. We'll get back to you later on after webinar to find out more and probably to answer your question, right? And you can move on from there, right? Okay. All right. Before I go into the next question, let me go straight to the next slide first, right? So before there's this 3 strategy, right? That to identify a highly profitable property, right? We as a real estate profession, we don't like to say you buy this sure win or sure make money. I think it's rather not a very good statement to make, right? Even in my experience, even I'm confident, I would say the odds are very high, right? Because there's never a sure win. So given if and to spot a good property, you need to have this thing called the top 3 strategy to identify. In fact, we have a checklist. We have a 3+1 checklist to help to identify a profitable property. And this is something that we have run a webinar on before. But if you are keen to find more, you can connect with us, with Velisa, with us, right? We will be more than happy to share with you this thing. Maybe we'll run another seminar, we'll let you know, or if not, we may be able to schedule another, probably a one-to-one consultation to find out more and share with you more, right?
I think truth be told, not all properties in Singapore make money. I have clients that came to me because they need to offload because their property is losing money. And I think it is a rather unfortunate thing because for the same period of time that he's invested, he could have gotten something else that could make him more. So as what Donny said, we do not have a crystal ball. We can't tell you exactly how it will behave in the next 5-10 years. However, we have enough data and statistics over the last many years to study it, to digest it, and to identify which are some characteristics of properties that make good money. And with that, we are also avid investors in the real estate, and we also experienced it firsthand. So I do believe that we had certain credentials to talk about that. And we will share some information with you. And it is your prerogative to decide if you want to take on our advice. But I do strongly suggest that if you are looking to enter into the market, don't go blindly. Have some analysis done before you put in your money. Just to share a personal example, I helped a client to offload a HDB last year. and we got into a private development. At that point in time, like all buyers, when they enter, they will always say, is it too expensive? Am I buying too high? What happens if the price drop? Common concern, we all understand. We being property buyers, we also had the same concern. When I buy my property, I couldn't sleep the night before as well. So that's a valid concern. But I'm happy to say in a year's time, 1 year later, that same property, the X value, which we call the market value, has increased by close to $500,000. So she's happy. I'm very glad I get her a good buy. But of course, we can't sell it yet because there's still seller stamp duty. But I believe that it is a very good start. And it also gave me another testimony to know that whatever that we are doing right now works. And we hope that we can help more people to grow their retirement portfolio using that.
Yeah, and just a quick sharing on my side. I identified this project which it fits into my 3+1 checklist. So the project has been fully sold. It's called Affinity. So what happened is I got my my buyers, who are, some of them are not my friend. After they consult through me, I handpicked and I brought them, and they purchased with confidence. So there was a transaction of a 3-bedroom, a 2-bedroom, and a cluster house. And all of them make money within this 1-2 years time, right? Which makes me very happy. The money is theirs, but you know what I enjoy? I enjoy the spot on moment where I got it right, because as per what I say, right? And some property they ask them don't buy, it also didn't really turn out well. So this is the kind of job pride. I know sometimes it's really not about the dollars, but about knowing that you can share your experience with someone that can impact their life. So this is something that I just want to share with you.
Maybe look at the Q&A.
Yeah. So okay. Well, in the meantime, if you like us, hope you all can connect with us. This is my Facebook. We have 2 Facebook. One is Velisa, one is mine. There's 2 Instagram. One is Velisa, one is mine. So we will share with you some of our personal life. Right, we are parents of 2. Yeah, with 2 daughters, and of course some of our interests. If sometimes if you are foodie, you may be interested to follow us, because sometimes we also recommend some good food. We love to go on vacation, so sometimes we explore places and all this. So you may connect with us to find out about some of our holiday options. Recently we went for a cruise. It was amazing. I have a time of my life which I've never wanted to go cruise, but my wife got me there. But it was really fun, right? And you know, you must always listen to your wife. Never go wrong. So anyway, just stand here, right? And of course, most importantly, we share real estate insights there, right? So if you like to find out more about real estate insights, you can connect with us, just add us as friend or follow us, and we no harm making one friend, right? So let me see some of your Q&A. Well, you going through okay. Yes.
Maybe let me answer the question by Joe. How will the cooling measure affect the private property market? Okay, so let's go logically. So now that private property owners who are thinking of selling to buy HDB are affected, chances are there will be a big group of them who will hold their plans. Okay, they may hold their plans because remember this cooling measure of the 15-month waiting period, they do highlight that it is a temporary measure. It is not going to be permanent. It's not going to be like written down in the books. So being a temporary measure, some of the sellers, they may want to wait and hold and wait for it to be lifted. And therefore, what does that mean? That means that the amount of units, private property units out in the market for sale is going to drop. There will be lesser units available in the market because there will be this group of buyers who will hold back to say that, no, stop, I can't sell now because I don't have a place to buy. So in terms of supply, we do foresee that there will be a drop. And how will that affect the private property market? I think if there's a drop in supply, prices I foresee is going to go up as well. Maybe not as crazy as what we have seen, but it will still continue to increase. Remember the 2018 cooling measure? After the cooling measure was announced, the market didn't tank. The market also didn't drop. The market continued to increase, but at a lower rate of 1.2%. Before the cooling measure, it increased by 9.1%. So we believe that in terms of the prices, it will still continue to rise because of the limited in supply. But that doesn't, if you are worried that your value is going to drop, I think it will still continue to hold. Yeah.
All right, thank you for sharing, Velisa, and thank you for the question, Joe. I'm afraid we cannot answer all this because we need to wrap up already. But there's a few questions. There's this question that I think I want to answer. Like Nori were asking on the OTP signed two weeks back, if they have no chance to get a HDB, need to go private. Nori, I have a strong suggestion. Go for appeal. I think there's chance. Recently, we have some legit cases. They are urgent. Made appeal and went through, right? But the difference is probably they had already purchased a property and purchased a HDB, but you hasn't. So it's okay. Find an MP or write into HDB under feedback and go for appeal. I think there's chances, right? So for the rest, if you
Okay, maybe let me just also address one of the anonymous attendee who asked, can we cover the 15 months waiting period affect private property owners who want to sell current property to change to a private property? Okay, if you are selling a private property and you're intending to buy another private property, this 15 months waiting period doesn't affect you at all. This 15 months waiting period only affect if you are selling your private property to buy a HDB and if you are lesser than 55 years old. I hope this is clear. So it will not affect you. If you are looking to buy another private property, you can still proceed. The 15 months doesn't affect you at all.
Right. Madeline, you asking about recording. You can let us know or let the person invite you know. We need to process it. If convenient, we'll share with you. Yeah. And there was one more anonymous was asking about is it better to always better to buy a bigger space, right? How about 1 or 2 bedroom? My advice is if you can buy 2 bedroom, don't buy 1. If you can buy a 3 bedroom, don't buy 2 bedroom. The bigger, the better. But if you have no option, you should still invest because you can still move with the market. As the market rise in price, you will also make. But there's this 3+1 checklist that we have looked into and we'll decide whether is it a good buy. So it's 1 bedroom also got depend on where, right? So it's very vague. If you are keen, the anonymous attendee, you can connect with us. You have all our social media. You can PM us. They say you attended our talk and we can explore further, or you can WhatsApp us. Yeah. So hope that answers you.
But in general, our philosophy for property purchase is these 3 points. Number 1, buy as young as you can, because you can leverage on the loan term. The more years you have in taking loan, the more advantage it is because the monthly repayment is lesser. Number 2, buy as big as you can, because as you all know, Singapore is land scarce, and going forward, like you may be single now, but going forward when you have children, all this, you're going to need space. Or next time when you want to sell, a bigger space will appeal more to family buyers who will be willing to offer a respectable price for your unit rather than going with a lowball mentality. So buy as big as you can. And number 3, buy as upper class as you can. What do I mean by that? If you can buy a landed, don't buy a condo. If you can buy a condo, don't buy a HDB. If you can buy a 5-room, don't buy a 4-room. If you can buy a 4-room, don't buy a 3-room. That's what we mean. All right.
So I really need your help because we also got some KPI to hit. If you can help us out on this feedback scan, fill up your details. Most importantly, I want your feedback like, oh, is it a good session? What is it missing and all this, right? And over there, you can also earn yourself a chance, opportunity for a one-to-one free consultation. We limit to the free consultation because our time is limited. We only meet to the first 5 sign up, or rather the 5 feedback to have this session with us. So if and even if you don't wish not to have any consultation, help us out. right, on this feedback, and we'll be very grateful. Probably I'll leave this screen here for another minute or so. You just help us to fill this up, right? Then and we are here to, we'll be very happy and grateful for your feedback, right? So
I receive a lot of WhatsApp, so give me a while. I'll reply to all of you with the ebook. And meanwhile, we do conduct seminars like that on a regular basis. So if there is a particular topic that you'd like us to touch on, do drop me a WhatsApp as well so that we can collate. And once we fix our schedule on the topics to cover, I will keep you informed so that you can also join us. Be it a lunchtime seminar or evening seminar, we will explore both timings as well. Our role is just to want to contribute back to let more people be aware on how to buy the most expensive asset ever in your life so that there will be no regrets. Yeah.
I know buying a property can be sometimes very daunting. Like, wow, so much money put inside, save or not? Very common. I got one buyer I met 10 years, more than 10 years ago. At first, very scared. Now, Donny, take all my money, come. How much? What's the biggest I can buy? Come. Well, ask my mom, my who, suddenly become very open because they have tasted success. So they are very aggressive in buying. So if it's okay, we'll handheld you, we'll walk through you, right, on this process. We'll share with you why and how to go about doing it. And if it's not a good buy, we'll let you know, right? That's for sure, because this is our job, right? If it's a good buy, we'll also let you know, right? So this is something that I just want to share with you. And I'm very grateful. Thank you for all the advisor for bringing your friends, your colleagues, your upline, your downline, your client, right, today to attend our talk. Me and Velisa is very grateful. Thanks for your support. And all these advisors that invited you for a talk, I can tell that they really treasure you as their client, as their friend, and they only want you to be better and making wiser investment decision, right? And they are also the right person that you should approach for all your investment ideas, because you will never see someone who is such a big heart, only talk about insurance, investment, and nothing else. They are a big heart advisor, which is how you do anything is how you do everything. And with that, you can see that they place your interest at heart and inviting you to something that they don't earn out of it, right? Do me a favor, because I can't see you. You know who your advisor is. Please send them a message and say thank you for inviting me over. And if you like to find out more about us, connect with us. We have all the social media, and with the feedback, well, we'll be very grateful, right? So that's all for today, and looking forward to meet you all sometime soon again. Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll end
All right, thank you very much, Donny and Velisa. Can we all give them both a round of applause, please? Thank you very much. Thank you for the very, very, very insightful information, you know, from the things that you all have shared. I thought Velisa really summed it up very nicely. Buy as early as you can, buy as big as you can, and buy as up close as you can. All right, with that, I thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We look forward to seeing you in our next session, which is going to happen tonight, tomorrow, next week, as well as the week after. All right, so if you are still curious about what are some of the webinars that we're going to have, please approach the person who actually invited you here, and we'll be happy to share with you some of the topics that we will be covering over the next 3 sessions. All right, with that, this is Jamson here signing off. Have a nice day ahead. Bye-bye.
Well done.